The moment he slammed his fist on the podium, the bulb in the ceiling flickered and died, like even the lights were done with him. The silence that followed wasn't fear. It was boredom dipped in contempt. You could hear the HVAC rattling like a dying snake above us. We'd all seen this show before, except this time I wasn't watching. I was counting. 34 hours. That's how long it had been since I'd submitted my resignation, sealed in a private envelope, time-stamped, stashed in a locked drawer beside the code archive no one remembered existed. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. I'd burned my favorite blazer steaming over the espresso machine at 2 a.m. while copying our migration keys into a non-company server with a name so bland it could survive audit. Meeting Notes Final V2. But all that was prelude. Because now the VP was frothing at the mic like a televangelist with a broken moral compass. Let me remind everyone in this room, he snarled, pacing, the soles of his shoes squeaking like rats in heat. No one is irreplaceable. Some intern stifled a laugh behind me. Probably their first town hall. Cute. I didn't laugh. I looked at Leela. She didn't blink. Then I saw him, back row. Hoodie zipped up to his chin like armor. Noah, back-end lead. My secret co-conspirator. Our eyes locked for 0.7 seconds, exactly the delay it takes for a production server to crash when the wrong hands touch the wrong repo. I knew then he'd run the job. I didn't mean to smile, but I did. And like a shark catching blood in the water, the VP pivoted, eyes straight on me, voice slower now, venom diluted in fake charm. Claire, you've been here what? 7 years, you know what I mean. Don't you? I stood up. Not dramatically, just the kind of deliberate that makes people nervous. My badge dropped from my belt and clinked against the floor like a coin, sealing a deal with the devil. It stayed there. I do know what you mean, I said, voice steady. I just don't think you do. You could feel the pause, like the room itself was holding its breath, waiting to see if this was theater or a fire alarm. I stepped into the aisle. A security guy reached for his walkie. Leela casually blocked his view. Noah shifted his chair, obscuring the nearest exit cam. Subtle, choreographed, practiced. Because this wasn't improv, this was execution. And the moment I reached the front, I pulled out a single folder. Labeled Succession Planning Claire Evans. He saw it, his face twisted, not in confusion, in recognition. Oh, he knew exactly what this was. I laid it on the podium, no words, just tapped the top of it twice. Soft, like a countdown. Where are you going? He croaked. Less VP now, more man clutching at titles like sand. Not going anywhere, I said. Then I turned back to the audience. They are. And behind me, chairs scraped, footsteps echoed. One by one, my team stood. The product manager with a toddler and a mortgage. The senior analyst with early stage missed the contract designer they never bothered to hire full-time. They stood because they'd seen what I'd seen. Because this company stopped being a company a long time ago. And I stopped waiting for permission. Last thing I saw before the door closed behind me was the VP flipping open the folder. His own signature on every page. Because he signed off on every handoff, every reorg, every toxic pivot, and that last document, an exit memo, signed by him, pre-approved, embedded in his own quarterly review. He just never read the footnote. The recruiter's office was a converted dental clinic with beige walls and motivational quotes still etched in frosted glass. Floss like a boss hung behind the receptionist, now taped over with a post-it that read, Wipe your feet. We're building futures. We didn't come for futures. We came for leverage. Noah arrived first, dragging a suitcase that looked like it had been kicked down a stairwell. Inside, every version history from the last 3 fiscal quarters, a copy of our real roadmap, not the PowerPoint fairy tale, a laminated screenshot of the VP's Slack message calling us code monkeys with attitude problems. By 11:45 a.m., all 12 of us were inside. Nobody spoke much. Leela was still shaking from the walkout. Marcus looked pale, like the silence was finally too loud for his nervous system. He hadn't quit yet, still technically on PTO. But that was fine. Legal gray is where revolutions live, and me, I wasn't nervous. I was furious. Recruiter Emily walked in like she was carrying state secrets, and in a way she was. She glanced at the folder I handed her and raised an eyebrow. This is comprehensive, I nodded. It's not just skills, it's infrastructure. You want a team that's battle-tested and pissed off enough to rebuild anything? We brought receipts. She flipped to the page with the migration diagram. Her pupils dilated. Is this live? It was, Noah said, chewing gum like it owed him rent. Pulled the trigger yesterday. The backup servers are clean, no trace. We even left them a sandbox full of dummy data so they wouldn't notice right away. Emily leaned back, grinning like a wolf that just found a cage with a loose lock. Jesus, you weren't kidding. I don't kid, I said. Not when someone tells me I'm replaceable. And that's when the email came in. Leela's phone buzzed first. She showed it to me under the table. Subject line, urgent system discrepancy live end from CTO time, 11:57 a.m. I clicked mine open. Hello team, we've noticed a major service disruption across the reporting dashboards and revenue metrics platform. If anyone is available for an emergency sync, I didn't read the rest. I knew how it ended. Panic, meetings. Blame ping-ponged across every Slack channel. I'd been that glue, that patch, that ghost in the machine smoothing over cracks they refused to fix. And now, they were staring at a cracked mirror with no one left to blame but themselves. Should we say something? Marcus asked, voice thin. I shook my head. Not yet. Emily leaned forward. What do you want, Claire? I laid it out flat. Not just jobs, ownership, titles, signing bonuses, yes, but autonomy. We don't want to work under anyone who thinks hiring a ping-pong table solves burnout. She smirked. That's bold. I leaned in, deadpan. We just walked out of a $300M valuation startup with its pants down and its code repo scrubbed. We're past bold. Before she could respond, another buzz hit the room, this time from Noah's laptop. He turned the screen toward me, and I swear the room tilted. A Reddit thread. Posted 5 minutes ago. Title, our entire dev team just quit mid-town hall and it's chaos. Amma, the username. VP deserves at 69. Pinned at the top, a screenshot of the VP, mid-yell, eyes bugged, mouth open like a dying bass fish. The comment section, already 300 deep. And in that instant, I realized we didn't just leave, we detonated. By the time the VP's meltdown hit Twitter, it had mutated. First it was VP says no one is irreplaceable, gets replaced by entire team walking out. And it evolved. Startup VP gets radioed by his own devs in real time, watch the carnage unfold. I didn't post the clip, I didn't have to. Someone, probably that intern with the laughter kink, had recorded the whole thing. The camera wobbled but caught the moment crystal clear, my badge dropping to the floor like a bullet casing. Noah nodding, Leela rising like a one-woman rebellion. The door slamming shut. It was cinematic. And it was going viral. Within 6 hours, 4 other recruiters had DM'd me. One offered kombucha and stock options. Another offered a speaking gig at a Women in Tech panel. Cute. They thought this was a protest. It wasn't. It was a heist. While the VP was calling emergency board meetings and threatening legal action he had no basis for, we were doing due diligence. My inbox was a graveyard of NDAs and pitch decks. CTOs wanted to learn more. CEOs wanted coffee. Didn't realize we were the ones interviewing them. But the real twist came at 7:13 p.m. That's when I got the text. Unknown number, you made your point. But you left something behind. Attached, a photo, my old desk, top drawer half open. Inside, a single USB stick. My initials scrawled on it in silver Sharpie, which made no sense. I hadn't used a USB in 3 years, and I sure as hell didn't leave anything behind, unless someone planted it. My stomach flipped, because that wasn't just any drawer. That was the drawer the VP once rifled through after I declined to join his strategic vision alignment offsite, at a 4-hour ego parade with no women at the table. I called Noah. He picked up on the first ring. You get the photo? I asked. Yep, pause. I didn't leave that. I know. We stayed quiet. Static buzzed between us. I heard traffic in the background. He was outside, watching something. You think they're trying to bait you? He asked. They don't need bait, I said. They need a scapegoat. Because here's what I hadn't told anyone, not even Leela. The VP had been quietly pushing an initiative to offshore half our engineering team. I'd seen the proposal by accident when I was reviewing a Jira import dump, hidden in a subtask labeled Q3 budget optimization. He was prepping to fire half the team before December. What we did wasn't sabotage, it was preemptive extraction. But if that USB held anything, old security credentials, partial backups, a financial model I'd abandoned mid-sprint, it could be twisted. And if it was planted, then this wasn't just a tantrum, it was retaliation. At 7:21 p.m., I called Leela. Change of plans, I said. We're going back in. Not because I missed the smell of recycled carpet and shame, but because if they were planting evidence, needed to control the narrative before they rewrote the ending without me. The building after hours felt like a crime scene that hadn't realized it was already dead. Motion sensors clicked on lights one by one like some slow, corporate horror reveal. I half expected to see the VP's face projected on every screen like some busted Bond villain. "Welcome back, Claire." But all I saw was dust. Abandonment. Silence, broken only by the hiss of recycled air. Leela met me at the side entrance wearing a hoodie 3 sizes too big and eyes that hadn't blinked since Tuesday. She didn't ask questions, just handed me the spare badge she'd swiped from IT during the chaos. "You sure about this?" she whispered, glancing toward the camera dome above the copy room. "They want to frame someone," I said. "I'm just making sure they get the right face in the frame." We moved fast. Elevators were disabled after 6, so we took the stairs. 6 flights in silence, broken only by the occasional vending machine wheeze or suspicious clatter in the ductwork. Probably a raccoon, or maybe HR nesting. Our old floor was cold, empty, the kind of empty that feels staged, like someone had cleared it out quickly but left enough clutter to say nothing to see here. Laptops gone, whiteboards wiped. Every personal mug mysteriously vanished except mine, still sitting there like a ghost of caffeine past. And there it was, my drawer slightly open, USB stick glinting like bait in a trap. I didn't touch it. I opened my laptop offline, fully air-gapped, and inserted my own decoy drive loaded with mirrored system logs. Noah had built a shell script that would scan the USB without launching any executable files. Just in case they got cute with it. Leela hovered behind me. "What if it's clean?" "Then they're dumber than I thought," I muttered, watching the logs crawl across the screen. But it wasn't clean. 2 seconds in, the script halted. Match found. Finance logs June 2023. XLSX hash discrepancy. Unauthorized modification detected last modified by C. Evans, Claire E. at DevStar Inc. My name, my credentials, my file. Except I never touched that spreadsheet. I'd archived it months ago when finance asked me to help audit a bug in the RevGen model. Ila's hand was on my shoulder before I knew I was shaking. "They forged the logs," she whispered. "They're setting you up for data tampering." I stood up so fast the chair toppled. My badge still lay there on the floor from 3 days ago. The same badge I'd dropped during the walkout, but something new had been added beneath it. A note, just one line, printed in tiny 10 pt font. This could have ended better. I snapped a photo of it and sent it to Noah. 10 seconds later, responded, "Noah, that's not just a threat, that's a timestamp. Check the printer logs from 3 nights ago. If they used company hardware, it's traceable." Leela and I bolted toward the server room, but halfway down the hall, the lights cut out. Not flickered, cut, dead, black. Then motion sensors triggered red. Emergency floodlight red. The kind you only see during fire drills and internal breaches. We weren't alone. A voice came from behind the break room door. Calm, familiar. "You really should have taken the kombucha and walked, Claire." The VP stepped into view, holding a Starbucks cup like a trophy and wearing that same smug smirk he used when rejecting PTO requests. Behind him stood the head of security. Arms crossed, eyes blank, corporate compliance incarnate. Leela stiffened. My heart didn't pound. It ticked, like a timer, because I'd planned for betrayal. But I hadn't planned for this. He wasn't trying to fire me. He was trying to erase me. He took a sip of his lukewarm ego brew and said it like he was reading a eulogy off a prompter. "You're trespassing, Claire, company property. After hours, accessing restricted files. I could have you escorted out in handcuffs, but frankly, I'm a gentleman." Leela stepped slightly in front of me, her breath shallow. I could feel her calculating hallway length, fire exit distance, probability of surveillance interference. Too late, we were boxed in and he knew it. The head of security didn't speak, just stood there like an unpaid actor in a soap opera, waiting for direction. "Why the charade?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "You planted the file, faked the logs. What's the end game, Bob?" He flinched when I said his name. Good. Bob hated being reminded he wasn't some mythical unicorn of tech leadership, just a middle-aged man with a Napoleon complex and a burner Twitter account where he retweeted Elon like scripture. "You know the drill," he said, stepping closer. "We clean house before a merger. Your walkout spooked the board. I had to make it look like a rogue faction. Saboteurs. One name in the fire is easier than 12. Leela hissed through her teeth. "You're blaming Claire for your own incompetence." He tilted his head, faux sympathy oozing from his pores. People and your moral high horses. This is business, you walked out. I kept the narrative clean, no lawsuits, just a disgruntled ex-employee caught accessing sensitive financial data. HR gets their sacrificial lamb. I get my bonus. Win-win. I almost laughed, almost. But then he added, oh, and by Monday, I'll have a full report circulating. Investors will know it was you who tanked the back-end pipeline. Your name will be mud. I should have cracked then. Screamed, thrown a chair, something. But I didn't. I smiled, and it scared the hell out of him, because the trap had already been reversed. I reached into my backpack and pulled out a tablet, turned the screen toward him, hit play, audio, crystal clear, his voice just 10 hours earlier. I don't care what you have to forge. Pin it on her, make it clean. His tone calm, almost bored, like he was ordering a sandwich. Bob's smirk cracked. You were in the office earlier today, he asked, voice wobbling. Nope, I said. You were. Left a Bluetooth beacon active in the printer room. Leela picked up the signal from the street. We spoofed your laptop session, accessed your mic remotely, and guess what? I tapped the tablet. Turns out your offhand threats sound great in lossless. He lunged, but security grabbed his arm, not to protect him, to stop him. Because while he was busy playing corporate Machiavelli, I was already 5 steps ahead. Noah had uploaded the full audio file to a secure G drive, with timestamps, chain of custody, forwarded to legal, the board, and 3 journalists who owed me favors after I exposed a crypto scam last year. Check your inbox, I said quietly. Subject line, irreplaceable. Bob froze, pulled out his phone. His pupils shrank. You're bluffing, am I? I nodded toward the emergency lights. They flickered, once, then again. The sprinkler system kicked on our command, because Noah had spent the last 2 days with backdoor access to the building's maintenance system. We weren't just hackers, we were architects. Let's go, I told Leela. We walked out soaked, silent, shoes squishing with every step. Behind us, Bob stood screaming in a red hallway, phone in hand, soaked to the bone, watching his empire short-circuit one light bulb at a time. We weren't replaceable. We were unforgettable. They tried damage control by sunrise. Official company Slack posted a vague announcement. An isolated incident involving unauthorized access is under internal review. Operations remain stable. Stable, please. The product dashboard was a graveyard of 400 fours. DevOps was in full-blown cardiac arrest, and some poor new hire accidentally pushed a live build with lorem ipsum still in the header. Meanwhile, the audio file hit Twitter at 7:13 a.m., bedded in a thread titled, Ex-employee leaks VP's attempt to frame her after team mutiny. You have to hear this. It got 80K retweets in the first hour. The memes were savage. My favorite? A photoshopped picture of Bob as Scar from The Lion King, shoving an engineer into a pit of pink slips. Caption, long live the org chart. But all of that was background noise to what came next. At 9:06 a.m., I got an email from the board's legal counsel. Subject line, request for interview internal inquiry. At 9:07, I got a Venmo from Leela for emergency waterproof mascara. At 9:08, Noah called me. They're bleeding, Claire, he said. PR's in freefall. Bob's locked in the executive suite, and someone just leaked the Q4 layoffs he planned. Wait, what layoffs? I asked. Exactly, he said. He was prepping to gut the research division. Folded under finance. Guess which team had the only working ML pipeline? You're kidding. Oh, and the offshore plan, that budget optimization subtask. Turns out he promised it to a cousin in Jakarta. The same cousin who tanked an e-commerce platform in under 6 months. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was absurd, beautiful, explosive, like watching the Death Star implode and realizing you were the one who loosened the bolt. At 11:32 a.m., I met the board. Not in person, not even on Zoom. They invited me to a private secure link. Black screen, 3 voices, no faces, corporate ghost court. Miss Evans, the woman in the middle, said, your evidence is substantial. I stayed quiet. Let them fill the silence with their own discomfort. We're aware of Mr. Bishop's conduct. His position is under review. Translation, he's already toast. We have one question, another voice added. Why didn't you bring this to us sooner? I paused and told them the truth. Because last time I raised a red flag, your chief people officer called me emotional. Because when I pushed back against fake mentorships, Bob cut my team's budget by 40%. Because when I flagged code theft last quarter, I got a performance improvement plan in return. Silence. Then the woman spoke again. What would it take to bring you back? I almost choked. To what? I asked. Help clean up a system I already burned down. Need leadership? She said quietly. Stability. Someone who can rebuild trust. No, I said, standing. What you need is to sit in your own ashes for a while. I ended the call. No thank you, no goodbye. By 1:00 p.m., Bob's resignation went public, pursuing other opportunities. Yeah, prison maybe. By 2:00 p.m., 3 news outlets published exposés. Every quote verified, every line sourced. By 4:00 p.m., I was sitting on a rooftop bar with my team, sun on my face, beer in hand, watching the stock price hiccup like it was drunk on its own bad karma. That night, I slept with my phone off. First time in months, but deep down I knew it wasn't over, because someone else had seen the USB, someone who hadn't spoken yet. And silence? Silence always means there's one last move on the board. The email came at 3:12 a.m. No subject, no signature, just a single line of text. You missed a backup. I stared at it, half asleep, heart pounding like it had a grudge. The sender was anonymized, VPN trace routed through 5 countries, a burner domain ending in. Rue for dramatic flair. Cute. Attached was a screenshot, a file directory, timestamped a week before the walkout. And there it was. /vault/devstar legacy /subfolder. Private backup BBzip. I felt the floor tilt, because I knew that naming convention. It was Bob's, and the contents. If my gut was right, it wasn't just spreadsheets and Slack transcripts. It was the real dirt. Emails, draft contracts, audio snippets. Stuff he wouldn't risk putting through corporate servers. Noah confirmed it within 10 minutes. That backup's not just real, it's radioactive, he said, voice low. Signed NDAs from the merger partner. Ghost invoices. Side contract with a consulting firm that doesn't exist. I think he was siphoning off pre-merger funds. Prepping an exit strategy. Blackmail? I asked. More like insurance, he replied. Except now someone else has it and they want you to know. My mind spun. If this was a warning shot, it wasn't aimed at us. It was aimed through us. Can we trace it? I asked. Noah hesitated. I can try. But whoever sent it, they want something. Otherwise, they'd leak it. This isn't exposure. It's leverage, and leverage meant politics. Internal, high stakes, dangerous. By noon, I had 3 theories. Someone inside the boardroom wanted Bob out, but now they needed a new scapegoat. Someone outside the company wanted to stall the merger and was using me as a blunt object. Someone inside my own team had known about the backup all along and never said a word. That last thought, it hit harder than I wanted to admit. I called Leela. No answer. I called Marcus. Straight to voicemail. I pinged Noah. Me, you told anyone else about the backup? Noah, no, not a soul. Me, even off record. Even before the walkout. Noah, Claire, what's going on? Then I checked my LinkedIn. New connection request. Leela, which was weird, because Leela and I had never disconnected. I clicked. Her profile had changed. New headline, Senior Engineering Manager Helix Quantum Systems. That's the competitor. Same firm that nearly poached our dev team 2 years ago. The same firm Bob once ranted about over lunch like they were a cult. I messaged her. No reply. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Noah sent another update. Noah, Claire, that backup. I just found another copy on Helix servers. Hidden deep. Modified 2 days ago. Leela's name is on the access log. My mouth went dry. This wasn't Bob's parting gift. It wasn't blackmail. It was a trade. Leela hadn't just walked out with us. She walked out with Bob's insurance file, then sold it to our biggest rival. And she used me as the decoy. That's why she helped with the mic, the sprinkler hack, the badge swipe. She wanted Bob to burn, but not for justice, for currency. She weaponized our rebellion to buy herself a seat at a better table. And now she was gone. Smiling in a headshot beside a CEO who once tried to poach me. I stared at the screen until my coffee went cold. I'd won the battle, burned the tyrant. But the knife had come from my own side, and it was still buried in my back. 2 weeks later, her face was everywhere. TechCrunch, rising star of engineering, how one woman helped secure the quantum pivot. Forbes, the strategist who outmaneuvered chaos inside Helix's bold acquisition. Even Wired, the quiet assassin, Leela Kim and the corporate exodus heard round the world, painted her like a prophet, like she hadn't walked across a bridge of betrayal with matches still smoking in her pocket. Not once did my name come up. Not in the bylines, not in the footnotes, not even in the dramatized TikTok reenactments with pastel filters and Gen Z voiceovers. That was her final move, not just to win, but to erase me. But you don't erase someone who built the battlefield, so I went quiet. Not defeated, just recalibrating. Because revenge is like code. You don't ship it angry, you ship it flawless. And when my moment came, it started, like all elegant executions, with a leak. A reporter I once saved from a lawsuit messaged me late one night. "Someone's feeding internal Helix emails to the press," she wrote. "The story's growing. Names are coming out. Names like Leela's. Names like the shell firm tied to Bob's cousin in Jakarta. Names like the mid-merger whisper deals Helix denied under oath." Then came the data audit. Helix's investors pulled out of a pre-IPO round when they saw the Q4 forecast had been propped up by recycled metrics, the same ones I buried in our test sandbox, scrubbed and forgotten, until Leela repackaged them as forecast prototypes. Bad move, because I'd tagged them. Obscure, invisible metadata, my initials and a timestamp, hidden in the dataset like digital DNA. So when that audit hit public record, guess who they traced it to? Not me, not Noah, Leela. Suddenly, she wasn't the quiet assassin. She was the security risk. Her contract got reevaluated. Her spotlight dimmed. She disappeared from panels. The headlines stopped. And that's when I made my move. I took a call from one of the companies that didn't go nuclear. Quiet mid-size firm that watched the whole DevStar saga unfold like a docuseries. They didn't want PR. They wanted someone who could lead without needing to stab anyone in the spine. The offer came with autonomy, a budget, equity, and no Bob, so I accepted. I rebuilt my way. Now, Leela consults freelance. Occasionally pops up on Reddit threads begging for advice on how to rebuild credibility after public exits. Bob, rumor has it he's advising an AI startup in Idaho. Good luck with that. As for me, I walk into meetings with people who listen. I build with a team that chooses to stay, and I don't carry a knife in my back anymore. I carry the blueprint of everything we survived, everything we exposed, everything they thought they'd bury. Turns out I was never replaceable, just underestimated. And now they remember me, even when they pretend not to. Especially then.